Hello dear all. In this video we shall be discussing chapter 11 from the book To the Lighthouse, written by Virginia Woolf. I have selected this chapter specially because the chapter 11 of this book is very significant with respect to Mrs. Ramsay's character. For example, the very opening passage describes about her own personal feelings when she is no more among the people, her own people, her guests, her children, and her servants, etc. When she goes into her own personal environment, this chapter goes to describe her in that way. Look at the words the paragraph uses, the writer uses. For example, in the middle of the paragraph, if you look at the words, the writer says she could be herself by herself, and that was what now she often felt the need of to think, well, not even to think, to be silent, to be alone. Now, these words go to indicate a wish and a desire in Mrs. Ramsay that she wished to be alone for some time and she wanted to think. So the paragraph becomes a manifestation of the manifesto proposed by Virginia Woolf in her essay A Room of One's Own, that a woman should have a place in her house where she can sit alone for some time after she has been tired after the day's work. There she can think about herself, she can plan about herself, and the same thing is happening here. But the same thing can be taken in a different way, that the woman like Mrs. Ramsay, who continuously works and serves and cooperates and deals with the people at her home and outside of her home as well, and especially she deals with her husband, that woman needs to have a separate place to sit and to close her eyes and enter into her own self. This self is a different self as compared to the self she uses when she is in the world around her. In Huxley's words, this self is her own personal private self. So at least we are able to find two selves of Mrs. Ramsay, one that is inside her and other which she is having outside. The same self can also be taken in the sense of Robert Frost's poem, My Deserts. And in that poem, as Robert Frost would say, that everyone has a desert inside him or her, and everyone needs to discover, to see that desert. And that desert, according to Robert Frost, could be as vast, as big, as large as the space between the stars, or as the hot deserts are there, or the cold deserts are there. This type of desert possibly exists in everyone, and Mrs. Ramsay too wants to spend some time in order to look into herself. So passage becomes significant with the respect that it not only reminds Mrs. Ramsay what she is when she is working in her work, but also it goes to remind her what actually she is from inside. So in this way, the very first paragraph opens the chapter with the feelings of Mrs. Ramsay like that. Besides that, there are some lines after the very first paragraph, which lines are again about Mrs. Ramsay. That, for example, look at the lines beneath. It is all dark, it is all spreading, it is unfathomably deep, but now and again we rise to the surface, and that is what you see us by. These lines are again manifest of the inner desert, which is really very deep, according to the writer, very spreading, very dark. But as we behave and act and interact with the world, we come to the surface and talk to the people. And this is our face which the world looks at. The world is unable to look beneath that face, beneath that self which is available all the time within us. And if we just proceed a little further, the lines in green in this chapter would indicate that there are many other things going on in the position which Mrs. Ramsay is using in order to see what she is. So the nights go to teach her what she is, and as a result, at night she is able to look at the lighthouse, that lighthouse which is very close to her home, which is the symbol of controversy between Mr. James and his father. The same lighthouse at the time of night conveys different types of feeling in the mind of Mrs. Ramsay. So in a way, as we will see later on in the passage as well, Mrs. Ramsay is a lighthouse who continuously provides light to everyone at the time when everyone needs, but the lighthouse itself needs a light in order to provide light to the people. Same is the case with Mrs. Ramsay, that she needs to think about herself. She needs to develop on herself before she continues to go forward in the world by coming on the surface of her desert. Wordsworth, the very famous poet, also called it an eye of solitude, which is necessary to contemplate about oneself, and that Mrs. Ramsay is doing. If we just cross one page and enter into the next page, I mean page 53, we will be able to find that the psychology of women has been talked about, psychology of children has been talked about, the psychoanalysis continuously is provided side by side. That is an indication that the novel is modern, the writer is modern, and that is why psychoanalysis is frequently available here and there. And the second passage in this chapter on page 52 shows the real feeling of Mrs. Ramsay, that the writer has compared her with the lighthouse, that she is doing everything for the people. Even she is knitting stockings for the boy of the lighthouse man, and she is making the people happy. The girls she is making happy, the boys she is making happy. She is doing everything for the people, and in that way continuously provides light around her, just like a lighthouse. And similarly, when we go further into the similar lines, we will be able to find further characteristics in this regard. The ending passage on page 53 of the text is again reflective of the feeling which Mr. Ramsay has about his wife, Mrs. Ramsay. When she is closing her eyes, she is looking into herself at that time. Mr. Ramsay finds her to be very attractive, very serene in her beauty, very sad one as well, and she really likes that she looks even more beautiful in this situation. He comes forward in order to think of waking her, but then he stops because he thinks that she's looking more attractive, better, beautiful in that feeling. So the situation in which Mr. Ramsay is at that time is liked and preferred by Mr. Ramsay as well. He understands that and does not want to wake up at that time, and rather wishes to enjoy, and he goes a little bit forward. As we see, the lines are there, that green shawl he takes, and that shawl becomes a type of protective cover for that woman as well. So in this way, the chapter deals with the character of Mrs. Ramsay, that she is just like a lighthouse, but she too has her own deserts, her own inner sides, her own selves to be contemplated upon. Thank you for watching. Hope to see you in some next video.